Okay, this is Ask Brien with Cassie Parks today, and our special host, Lori Schwartz, also known as Tech Cat Girl.
That's right, and I have to say that I'm a little hungry right now because of that last commercial.
Well,
that Presto Pasta commercial.
You really like that pasta, don't you?
I don't eat pasta because of.
Wow.
I don't eat pasta because of. We had a live studio accident. I don't eat pasta because of the.
Do you know a workers' comp attorney?
Yeah. Aren't you a workers' comp attorney?
Yeah.
I don't eat the carbs, but I do love pasta. Now, Casey, you were telling us during the break that you've written a lot of other books. And you have another one coming soon, which we'll hear about a little bit. But I think Peter and I were curious about, Ask Brien and I were curious about case studies.
So can you give us some real life examples?
Yeah, I can give you two that are coming to mind off the top of my head. One is Maggie McReynolds, she's a recently new author doing amazing things in the world for divorced moms. And when she took my course, Manifest 10K, she manifested $20,000 in the form of a new job, which just showed up, and it gave her more time and more freedom. So it wasn't just the money, but it's the time and the freedom that came with it. And so I think that's all fabulous, but the most fabulous part about Maggie's case story is she really changed her story. She realized, and now looking back, the more we've kind of analyzed it, she's been living a story that she learned from her stepfather, that there's always just enough money. So, she was the type of person that $1,500 could show up, but then she could be sure the hot water heater was going to break to take up that $1,500. And she also knew, if you need $300 for breaks, the $300 would show up, but there was never more than enough. And by doing the course, she was actually able to change her story to there's more than enough, which is just, catapulted her life. She has a new amazing place with her dream kitchen, and she's just authored a book and is just living in this way much more abundant space.
Oh, I love that.
How did she get away from even Steven, which is what I call even Steven, is find 300, spend 300. How do you go from even Steven to having that extra resource?
Or in my case, Ask Brien, which is, just charge everything on your credit cards and be in debt.
And hope. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Or play the lottery.
Yeah.
Pay the fees. Pay the fees.
Yeah.
So she was able to really change her life. And what's the name of her book?
No, from
Unsettling.
What's that?
Unsettling.
Unsettling. I love that.
Uh-huh.
I love that.
Yeah.
Every theme we've come across today to make it be with dating, the law of attraction, unsettling.
Yeah.
They're the same.
Divorced moms.
Yeah. I mean,
yes, right?
Is this a dating or business?
Well, isn't it all the same? Isn't it all wrapped up together? That in business, you're dating your idea.
And
right?
What about business partnerships?
That's right. And sometimes you divorce your business partner.
That's what I do.
And sometimes you divorce whoever you've been living with for a long time.
That's true.
Because you feel like it.
A lot of analogies coming on here. Let's get back to where we were, though. What was the second case study that you did that you think that's value?
Another one is that she's a mom. She was a single mom, but she was spinning, and she actually had a business, and she was working a lot because she really was in survival mode. Her money story was survive. From the time she had been raised by a single mom who survived. When she became a single mom, she just hit that survival mode and couldn't see what was happening. And she was creating all of it. She was hiring more employees and taking on more business because she thought that was going to take more money, that was going to bring more money in. And when we really sat down and started working on looking at her money story and looking at the numbers and doing things, she realized the money was going out and she wasn't making what she thought she was. She had this idea, I can't do it all alone, I have to have employees. But when we really looked at the numbers, she now works way less and makes more because she's not paying someone else. And that all was a result of really just, starting to change her mindset and look at little things in money and looking at her patterns, which was basically to keep creating things that kept her in survival mode because, that's where she felt comfortable. She'd been there for 25 years. She'd been there as a kid with the single mom. And so that was a comfortable place. And now she's in this place where she knows money's always coming in. Like I said, which is my favorite part. She gets to work less and make more. I am all about that. And, she has more time for her kids. She has more time to spend with her family and be present because she's not running around with like a chicken with their head cut off.
So when she reduced the staff and the employees, were her revenues able to stay the same or be close, or did they go down without revenue-producing employees?
They stayed the same because she thought they were revenue-producing. She thought that meant she was opening up stuff. But she was having to juggle a lot of things because of employees, and it just opened up. The revenue stayed the same. I would say it's even gotten better because everything isn't so chaotic anymore. So she's able to know when she can take on more work. She can take on big projects that she might have said, "Oh, there's no way I can handle that" before.
Yeah, I love this stuff because, we all have personal issues that hold us back. We all have these bits and pieces in our business and personal life that hold us back. And it seems like what your workshop and book are really addressing is helping everybody, tackle that thing that holds them up,
Yes.
and then helps them move forward. Like for instance, I think I'm trying to think of like what holds me back, and there's so many. Like we would need a lot of workshop time with me, Casey. And
Workshop time or a psychiatrist?
Yeah,
or,
whatever.
Talking everything. Yeah.
We need time together, but I do love your the stories you're telling, because it seems like you really help people, get to that point so that they can execute on their vision. And then once you're in that zone, then that's all it's about.
So how do you find that point, right? You told us that her problem, that was her problem. Her problem was she had hired too many staff people and they weren't revenue producing. How do you find that one focus point? How do you drill into that? Where does it come from?
So what I found in doing my work and working with all of my clients and looking back at my life is that most people think the way that you find it is to look for it, is to go, okay, this is the problem, right? And look at it for the problem that you can solve. What I've found, and this is why the book is called Manifest 10,000, it's why the course is Manifest 10K, is that when you pick an intention and you start moving to get in alignment with that, get on the road to that intention, the things that are actually in your way, which are, I would say 99% of the time, not what you think is in your way, those things show up because you're moving towards something instead of trying to move away from something.
Ah.
If I had taken Michelle, who's the story, she now works less and makes more. If I had taken her and we would have tried to move away from the chaos, I don't think we would have found what we were looking for, but it was when the intention was to step into this abundant place, step into $10,000, which she manifested 14,000, more than 14,000 in 90 days. But when we started moving her to the place that she could become that person who has $10,000, who's enjoying the life that $10,000 brings, whatever that is for her, then we were able to see what was coming up, what's getting in her way, what's blocking her success. And when you start to create the momentum with some of the exercises that I give in the book, like being more playful with money, really putting yourself in that future place of having the money, when you start to build the momentum that way, then you can see things easier, and it's easier to change because you've built up some of that positive momentum versus just trying to go straight into the change.
So are you going to change the book to 10,000 plus? Because she got 14.
Well, and I also, kind of what you're saying is, move to the light. You're kind of saying that, right? Move to the light. I mean, it's good, like stand up and face the challenge head on and walk through the challenge. I actually, I took you probably don't know this about me, ask Brien, but I took karate a couple of years ago.
Whoa.
And
Are you a black belt?
No.
We need to go over there.
I'm a nothing belt, but but I did it for a couple years, and my sensei would say to us, because somebody was doing a kata, like the actual steps you do, and somebody had spilt water on the floor, and so the person moved away from the water to not fall, and so the sensei was like, "What did you just do?" And they're like, "I got out of the way of the water," and he's like, "No, move through the water." you don't stop, Well, I mean, I could do it in his accent. He was like, you don't stop, but it's that idea. You got to move through the water. You got to get to the goal.
And that was during the time probably you were watching Karate Kid, right?
I never actually watched Karate Kid, but I do know about wax on, wax off. But my arms were like amazing during that year. Like, my arms were killer because you're constantly moving your arms. These days, because I'm white collar, the only exercise my arms are getting is moving up and down my keyboard.
Or carpal tunnel syndrome.
Yes, exactly.
So,
I love that.
Well, that's a very great analogy you got there going. I wanted to ask you. You're here now in Los Angeles. That's correct? And what is the goal here in Los Angeles?
Just to meet more people. I'm doing the interview with you. I have a couple of other interviews set up. I'm doing a Facebook Live tomorrow night with one of the local anchors. And just to meet new people. And the bonus is when you start doing this stuff, I love being the living example. And so we came out here to meet people and have fun. And what's actually happened is I've gotten to meet somebody that I've been interviewed on her podcast, and she's interviewed. She's staying at this amazing house in Malibu, and we're getting to enjoy all of that goodness as well. So it's become also a girls' trip.
Well, that sounds like a tough life.
Right?
We're live on KHTS 1220 on your dial, AM dial, and we're here with Cassie Parks and my guest, Laurie Schwartz. Laurie, did you have a question?
Well, I know that you have other books that you're digging into. I guess you've written 7 books. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you have another one that's going to be coming out soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Double Your Business comes out in bookstores in January is when its official launch date, and which is, I'm sure you can pre-order it on Amazon, if not now, pretty soon. And that book is really about this, taking the entry level of this money mindset and really taking it into creating the business that you want, doubling your business without doubling your hours, by getting clear on the vision. So many people get clear on the goal, like I want to make 100,000, I want to make 500,000. But what they forget to get clear on is what the whole life looks like that they're going to be living. And so I've been teaching people in a workshop how to do this, and they've been able to double their business without doubling their hours.
Oh, I love that.
So
that's the 20K, right?
Yeah.
No, 28, because she made 14, remember?
Oh, right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. And how do you decide, again, because I'm fascinated by your productivity, that it's time for a new book? Is it that you've moved forward with your own manifesting, and so you kind of decide, okay, I need to aggregate these new ideas into a new book, or is it literally just one day you just wake up and say, I want to write this?
Or maybe she needs to double her 28 and make 56.
Right. Ask Brien is very practical.
Right?
But how do you identify that an idea is solid enough for a book, and what makes you decide, having been an accomplished author, to generate another one?
The decision usually for me is twofold. It's sort of that intuitive, it's time, but it's also, have I gotten success stories? Like, can I share this? Because I think we've learned, number one, that things are possible when we can hear other people's stories. So I love to write where it's not just theory, but I've helped people get results. I've supported them in taking that next step in their life. And so that's one of the other things is, can I talk about it? Can I show this? Can I teach this in a way where I do have stories that have come true, to back it up? So that's one way. And then you guys are talking about books, so I will tell you my secret for writing books. My books are very short, which is, the way I always wanted them to be, but it's actually also the way the consumer now wants it to be. Bookstores, what I've heard from my publisher is that they love the size of my books because they're very quickly consumable. So you can read my book on an airplane, you can get off the airplane and start implementing, and that's the way I always wanted it to be.
Make it chunkable, easy, on demand, available, and not overwhelming.
Now, are these on audiobook as well?
Manifest 10,000 you can get on audiobook. There's a link in the book that I'll give you the free audiobook to. And but they're not available in other audiobooks. I record my own audiobooks because people, they love to hear my voice. That's what I hear from my podcast fans, so I always record my own and just give it away on my website when you buy the book.
I would use Morgan Freeman. That's just me. But
Right?
I was thinking more of like, James Earl.
yeah, James Earl Jones would be good. Yeah.
He did do Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Luke.
Yeah. Yeah.
And CNN.
Yeah, that's it. In the end, everything is always about Star Wars. It doesn't matter. Just like everything is about Star Trek as well. Star Trek and Star Wars are really a metaphor for life.
Well, that's just all about
Yes.
stars.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the metaphor, it's just stars.
Exactly.
So we're talking again with Cassie Parks on KHTS 1220. We're going to be taking a short break in about a minute or two, but you had one more question you wanted to ask? Or?
I think I just love this idea that the focusing and writing these books and being able to generate so much content and in a timely manner too, which I think is great.
And how do you sit down and focus like that? It's easy, for us to sit down and read the book, but you have to actually have a lot of time to focus. You're out on the road touring, trying to promote books, promote your coaching. When do you have time to sit down and write a book?
So here's my big secret. I write all my books, and I write them the first draft in 3 days or less.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just carve out, that's what I'm going to do for those 3 days, make sure, I'm taken care of in terms of food and taking breaks and stuff like that, but write in 2 hour blocks and just get it done. And then it takes, a little while longer, the process of, getting them out into the world and doing the editing. But I rate the majority of them in 3 days.
So by July 4th weekend, with a 4-day weekend coming up,
Yeah.
I'm expecting another book out.
I was thinking to myself, I'm starting to like you again, but you just made me hate you again. So I'm sorry about that.
It's definitely love-hate here.
I love it.
So we're going to be taking a break, and we'll be back in about a minute. And we're live on KHTS. We have my co-host, Lori Schwartz.
Hello.
Jay Berkowitz is going to be on the line in 30 seconds, and we're finishing up with Cassie Parks. Cassie, before you go, I just wanted to ask, so what future events are there out there that are coming up shortly for you?
In so I will be live on Facebook with Christina Devine tomorrow night in LA. And then there's going to be a meet and greet at some point with I have fans in the area, so going to get together with them. That's being finalized. And then in October, I have a live Manifest 10K event, which is a 3-day event where I get everybody together and we get to do in person changing money stories.
And these 10Ks are just $10,000. We're not talking about 10K runs, right?
Right. All my running friends always think that.
Well, you've been a fabulous guest, and we're going to have you back on our show. We'll be speaking with you in the near future, and we learned a lot, and we're very grateful to have you on.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
I'm going to start to think about manifesting something.
Well, yeah, you
A
have
sandwich.
You have the weekend. You better write a book. Thank you very much, Cassie.
Thank you for having me. Have a fabulous day.
Jay, are you there?
Yes, I am.
And where are you calling from?
I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. It's stunning and beautiful.
Wow.
Oh, that's a very nice place to be. So I have a question for you. You wrote 10 golden rules. Do you have? Are there any more golden rules that are coming out? So.
Yeah, actually, no. It's funny you joke, but I just wrote the 7 deadly sins of digital marketing.
Oh boy.
I was thinking the movie, but that's good.
I love that title because there are so many sins.
So, can you give us a taste of like 2 or 3 of those deadly sins, so we don't try to avoid them?
Well, one of the biggest deadly sins is not testing. I call it the ostrich strategy. You just put your head in the ground because you can't just throw up a website and expect you're going to make millions of dollars. I mean, maybe if you manifest it would help, but really you got to do lots of activity. You got to send lots of traffic. You got to test different offers. You got to test different traffic sources. Test Google. Test Facebook. So the ostrich strategy definitely doesn't work.
But so how long do you test? As an example, so for instance, Ask Brien was our site, right? So we're constantly testing, but good question I have is, how long do you test for to see whether or not it's going to work or not? Because sometimes you could test for 30 days and nothing happens, and day 31 it finally manifests itself. No pun intended on our last guest who wrote 10K.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And really it's a factor of, scientific significance. And what I mean by that is like, if Ask Brien has, let's say you're doing pretty good and you got like 500 visitors a month, that's probably not enough to have a statistically valid test.
Okay.
But if you're, a huge law firm and you've got 20,000 people a month coming and 10,000 see version A of a page and 10,000 see version B, we call that A/B testing, where half the people see one offer, half the people see another offer. That's probably a pretty good indicator at the end of a month which one worked better than the other one. There's a number of testing tools we use. We like Unbounce, unbounce.com, and leadpages.net.
Nice.
And those are A/B testing tools where you can actually do this in a rapid manner, and they'll take care of the statistical significance, and they'll tell you when you've had enough traffic to make a qualified decision.
It's so smart. Do you think that's one of the biggest mistakes that big brands are making right now is in investing in digital experiences and not approaching it with A/B testing? Just going all in with an idea?
I mean, there's a lot of mistakes that we see. Let's take a step back. Some people don't even have conversion tracking set up, and some people have it set up incorrectly. Now, what's a conversion? For something like the Ask Brien show, maybe Brien would have an ebook or a white paper, be like, download my 7 strategies white paper, or download the 7 deadly sins of digital marketing on my site. And that way you can track, are people taking an action? Are they giving you their email address? Are you building leads from that vehicle? Obviously, if you're in e-commerce, you're evaluating every single day whether people are buying your product or not. And you can test different designs, offers, landing pages. But we see so many campaigns where people aren't even tracking something as simple as a download. And we also see campaigns where they're triple counting, incorrectly measuring a conversion. So taking a step back, like if you're not even measuring a conversion, forget about testing. Like, first things first, let's find out how many people are coming to your website, how many people are taking an action, and you can just do that with free Google Analytics.
I was just about to say that. You pretty much want to start with Google Analytics. Now, go over that. You mentioned something triple and counting, I believe, and I'm trying to understand. So what does that mean, you're triple counting? You're counting when they come to the page, when they download something, and somewhere else 3 times?
Yeah. Well, that's one deadly sin.
That's a pretty bad sin.
Yeah, sometimes we're seeing the analytics code improperly installed. Sometimes we're seeing 3 different analytics codes installed on a site.
Right.
It's really not, it used to be relatively easy. It used to be relatively clean. Everybody got one analytics account and installed it, but a lot of people have had different webmasters and different websites and different agencies. We generally are unraveling a little bit of a mess when we get started on a campaign.
Let's have another deadly sin. Not that I want to commit one.
I mean, let's have a deadly sin. It doesn't have to do with marketing. Let's just have a deadly sin.
And not really deadly.
Eating too much.
That's a good one.
That is a very good sin.
What about, can I ask you one question about ad fraud and how is that in part of your sins, how people are handling ad fraud?
There's a couple different considerations on ad fraud. I mean, a lot of people have a little bit of a dated view of what ad fraud is from a Google perspective because, 5 or 6 years ago, your competitors could click on your ads lots of times, and it was a pretty significant factor. Google works very aggressively to prevent that type of fraud. And if the same computer or the same device clicks on an ad 3 times in a day, they won't charge you again. They'll charge you the next day. But if someone does that like every day for like 3 days, then they won't charge you at all from that device. So unless your competitor is going to set up like 500 different IP addresses and 500 different devices, they're really not going to make it enough of an impact from an ad fraud perspective. So, the general assumption that people have has been taken care of in the marketplace. There's another pretty significant thing that we're working on. We actually created a company called Lead Protects. And we're putting 2 or 4 or 6 fake leads into our clients' lead flow every month. And you'd say, why would you be doing that? Well, we've seen multiple instances, particularly I mentioned earlier the example of an attorney or the example of a medical practitioner. A lead for an attorney, like a big car accident case, could be worth $5 million, $10 million. And so if somebody's selling off your good leads, they're making money, and you're getting ripped off inside your organization. And there's about 5 or 10 different leaky holes where somebody could be selling off your leads. We found the instance of a Hispanic receptionist who took all the Spanish calls, and she was selling the leads off to her cousin at another Hispanic law firm. We found another instance where the guy who was actually the manager of the intake department was selling off a bunch of leads, and he had a whole paper flow on his desk. Like they didn't even have to go very far to, press charges against this guy. So, we're putting these fake leads into place, and it does 2 things. First of all, it protects from this kind of lead fraud where someone in your organization is selling your leads. It also prevents, like if there's a hacker that you couldn't find is hacking into your system. But think of all the multiple touch points we talked about earlier, like Google Analytics. There's call tracking, there's chat. There's multiple different technology companies now that have access to your leads. So we're preventing lead frauds by putting the fake leads in, and we're also giving feedback to the companies, to the law firms and the medical offices. Here's how quickly your guys got back to us. Here's the quality of the intake. Here's the quality of the response we got. So we're doing a lot of very sophisticated things in that area.
Well, Jay, that was just so insightful, and I really would like to get into that more in depth. Unfortunately, we have a very limited show here. It did sound very much what I used to know about on mailing lists, called basically seeding the list, where basically you put in fake names when you sell a mailing list to know whether or not people are using the mailing list more than one. It seemed very close to what you were talking about. I definitely want to talk more with you, but we have to wrap up our show. You've been a wonderful guest here today, and we're going to have you on back again, and we're very grateful to have you. This is KHTS.